This is the K-pop Demon Hunter's meal for McDonald's. It's inspired by the 2025 film, which became a global phenomenon with its dynamic art direction, hit songs, and mass appeal. It won the Academy Award for Best Animated Feature at the 98th Academy Awards this past March, and there have been talks of potential sequels and other follow-ups, so a promotional meal like this makes sense. 8 months late, worth a cent still less. That's right, we're promoting a movie 8 months after it came out. The meal itself comes in two varieties, one breakfast and a lunch variety.
Regardless of what you think about this meal or this promotion, there was one little detail about this whole thing that really started to confuse me, and it's this right here. Zoom in a little bit. It's marketing itself as an adult meal for a children's cartoon, and I always thought that was a little bit strange.
Not even Happy Meal, just meal for the most part that I've seen in press releases, in news articles, on the official McDonald's website. Yeah, you hear that. Adults aren't allowed to be happy. That's a joke.
But this really got me thinking about something I've been noticing in animation at large. Namely, why there are so many people who are fans of these type of things, particularly animated things that are aimed primarily towards younger audiences, so much so that something like this can exist. This is what I wanted to talk about today.
I could fully understand the appeal a movie like this has, and fully assert it is a high-quality film. It's just not really for me. But regardless, watching this movie, I found it had a lot of features that were very indicative of how many animated movies nowadays are made. First off, it has a pretty quick pace, at least in comparison to other animated films from just a few years ago. And I like to think that this is because kids nowadays are always using social media, and the faster pace from this just makes their attention span shorter, and thus films have to pick up their paces too. Something attention economy. It also has a strong artistic and animation style, no doubt influenced by the general trends in the 3D animation space has been having over the past few years, your Spider-Verse, Arcane, Puss in Boots affairs. And finally, let's not forget what this movie is directly about. I mean, it's a movie about a K-pop band. Of course this movie is quote-unquote for the youth.
The point is, from how this film was put together, to its marketing, to its PG rating, this film was clearly made with the intent of being for younger audiences. But it clearly has a sizable adult fan base as well, because, well, here's the proof.
But why adult meal? I mean, there's nothing inside the actual meal itself that demands it to be an adult meal. Wait a minute. They could have just made this a regular Happy Meal and marketed it as such to include the film's core audience, because you know for a fact if those weird grown-ass adults wanted it, they would have gotten it, and it being a Happy Meal would not have stopped them. But no, apparently the content of these cards is too saucy for children. How about the demon sauce? Is that too saucy too? Clearly not for these cards. Oh my god, cover your eyes, kids!
Now, I'm not trying to over-exaggerate about this. I know that production teams and marketing teams have different goals. They may have made this movie primarily targeting younger audiences, but somewhere along the line, somebody saw in their data in the marketing team that this film had both enduring popularity and it was popular enough among adults that they could make a meal like this. But I want to turn our focus away from both the meal and the movie and towards the audience, towards the people that are buying something like this. Who is this new generation of adults that both would enjoy a movie like this and also would invest in buying a meal like this?
It's often said that Gen Z is a lagging generation, and while I'd push back on many of those claims, there are some numbers behind that which leads to Gen Z having different priorities, interests, and motivations than previous generations. First off, money. From a pure numbers standpoint, countless studies have shown that Gen Z does have more wealth than previous generations. However, it is also true that they have less spending power than previous generations. In other words, they might have more money in general, but their dollar just doesn't get them as far as it would have in a previous generation, especially for big purchases. As a result, we've been seeing Gen Z adults putting off key coming-of-age benchmarks like getting your own place, getting married, having children, as well as other things such as vacation and quality of life purchases.
These stressors are exemplified by the fact that many young adults don't have a place where they can gather, they can de-stress, they can meet with friends. You've probably heard of the term third space before, which is a place besides the work or home where people can idly hang out, meet with people with no expectations of leaving, preferably with new people or people you know before. You know these type of places. Or maybe you don't, because these third spaces have been dying for years. Combination of the pandemic and the internet now becoming everyone's new third space. Now, I believe the internet can never be a real replacement for true third space or socialization with real life people, but for many people it is. For many people that might be the only form of socialization they get on a daily basis. These people are losers.
Either way, nowadays there is a large portion of our younger population who now get a vast majority of their social life and cultural diffusion primarily from the internet. They can find a community of like-minded individuals, usually relating to a topic they all enjoy. Finally, a community for me. And this, no doubt, makes it easier for young adults to run from their problems. They can flee from the worries like relationship woes or a lacking job market and instead engage with the comforts of their youth. It's also just flat out true that younger generations like animation more than previous generations. A recent study from UCLA showed that 48% of adults aged from 19 to 24 preferred animated media over live action media. You might see this and think it's just because younger audiences are a lot closer to their youths and thus have stronger, fonder memories of watching these type of shows, which is true. But it's also true that these adults grew up in a time where animation was beginning to become a more complex, more nuanced product, both in terms of its animation quality, but also in its writing. There was also a lot more animation in general, and it was generally of much higher quality than in the generation prior. I mean, comparing these shows to the ones that were airing a generation ago, it's no wonder why this older generation doesn't care about animation as much when they grew up with this. So in short, young adults grew up with animation being a favorite form of entertainment for them, and that doesn't change as they age. As such, while they'll also watch it as something normal along with all the other stuff they'd be watching too, they'll also often use it as a form of escapism as they navigate early adulthood. It's how something like, well, not just this movie, but all sorts of cartoons have large young adult fan bases along with their primarily younger audience.
Honey, I'm home! How you doing, sweetie? That's great. Now move over, Daddy wants to watch his children's cartoons.
If you've paid attention to the entertainment industry at all for the past decade plus, then you know about this problem already. It seems like the vast majority of what's being released nowadays is from already existing franchises. It seems that studios have started relying on what I like to call quote-unquote bankable franchises that they can guarantee at least some return on investment on. There has been endless debate about the causes of this, but for, well, a number of reasons, entertainment studios have become much more resistant to greenlighting new works or properties, which are riskier and have no guarantee of a return on investment. Older franchises, in contrast, have already proven that they've been successful in the past and thus are more likely to be so again in the future. How is this relevant? Well, it kind of means that this current generation really doesn't have a lot of media, or specifically new movies or TV IPs, that it could really uniquely call its own. If you think of the top performing things of this generation, animated or not, they're usually from some property a generation or more older.
And let's be clear, this isn't Hollywood is running out of new ideas or people aren't as creative as they were since when I was a kid. No, people are just as creative as they were when you were a kid. It's just that they rarely get to show it nowadays because every time they have an original idea, they have to wrap it in bubble wrap and put it in an existing IP in order to get buy-in. So when something new does come out, it does feel kind of special, as sad as that sounds. This creates a perfect storm for something like K-pop Demon Hunters to become as big and successful as it has.
Overall, these are some of my thoughts on both youth culture and animation's role in it that this meal made me think of. And I'm not going to pretend I'm above it or anything. I mean, I bought the meal, and I fit exactly into the definition of the type of person I just described. A young adult who liked animation as a young child and continues to like it into adulthood. So this film and this movie might not have been made for me, but it was made for people like me. I understand where it's coming from. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And now, if you excuse me, I'm going to enjoy a promotional meal for a film I wasn't the biggest fan of from a restaurant that I'm also not the biggest fan of. Take care.